Take a slow breath, and another. This audiobook is not about winning all the time. It is not about avoiding pain, mistakes, or disappointment. It is about something deeper. It is about learning. Chapter 1. The Quiet Weight of Loss. Detailed explanation. This chapter explains that loss does not always appear in dramatic or obvious ways. Sometimes loss is loud and visible, like a public failure or a clear rejection. But very often, loss is quiet and private. It can be something only you feel. Failing an exam you worked hard for, missing an opportunity you hoped for, losing a friendship without a clear ending, not reaching a goal you deeply cared about. These losses may not be noticed by others, but they still carry emotional weight. The central idea of this chapter is that loss hurts because it shows that we cared. Pain is not a sign of weakness. It is proof of effort, hope, and emotional investment. The chapter challenges a common belief that success increases our value and failure reduces it. Instead, it presents a healthier perspective. Loss is not the opposite of success. It is part of the growth process. Every meaningful journey includes setbacks, and those setbacks are often what shape strength, maturity, and wisdom. Chapter 2. Why Loss Feels So Personal. Detailed explanation. This chapter explains why loss often feels like a personal attack on self-worth. When something goes wrong, people tend to confuse what happened with who they are. Instead of saying, "I failed," many people say, "I am a failure." This happens because the human brain naturally connects outcomes to identity, especially when we put in effort, emotion, and hope. When you tried your best, believed in yourself, and invested emotionally, loss feels deeply personal. The most important lesson in this chapter is, an outcome is information, not a judgment. Loss does not define your value or character. It simply shows where you currently stand and what can be improved. True learning begins when we stop asking, "Why am I not good enough?" and start asking, "What can this experience teach me?" This shift protects self-esteem and opens the door to growth. Chapter 3. The Difference Between Losing and Being Defeated. Detailed explanation. This chapter clearly separates losing from being defeated. Losing is an event, something that happens. Being defeated is a choice, a decision to stop learning or trying. A person can lose and still grow, move forward, gain experience, become stronger. Defeat only occurs when someone refuses to learn from loss. The chapter introduces 3 powerful reflection questions that turn loss into learning. What went wrong? This helps identify mistakes or weak areas. What went right? This helps recognize strengths and effort that should continue. What can I do differently next time? This turns insight into improvement. Most people only focus on the first question and replay mistakes repeatedly. But real growth comes from balancing all 3 questions. This chapter teaches that progress is not about avoiding loss, but about using loss wisely. Chapter 4. The Emotional Storm. After Loss. Detailed explanation. This chapter focuses on the emotional reactions that naturally follow loss. When people experience loss, they often feel emotions such as sadness, anger, embarrassment, frustration, or disappointment. These emotions are not signs of weakness or failure. They are signals that something meaningful has happened. The chapter explains that ignoring emotions does not make a person strong. In fact, suppressing feelings often makes them last longer and appear in unhealthy ways. The wave metaphor helps explain emotional processing. If you fight emotions, they overwhelm you. If you allow them to rise and pass, they slowly lose power. The chapter teaches emotional balance. Feel emotions honestly and without judgment. Do not stay trapped in them forever. Once emotions settle, the mind becomes clearer, making learning and better decisions possible. Chapter 5. The Growth Mindset Shift. Detailed explanation. This chapter introduces two different ways of thinking about loss. A fixed mindset believes that ability and intelligence are limited. I lost because I'm not good enough. A growth mindset believes abilities can improve with effort. I lost because I'm still learning. The word still is powerful because it suggests progress and future improvement. This chapter explains that loss becomes valuable when mistakes are treated as information, not personal damage. Instead of self-blame, the chapter encourages curiosity. Which skills were missing? Which habits need adjustment? Which assumptions were incorrect? When curiosity replaces shame, learning becomes possible, and confidence remains intact. Chapter 6. Stories Hidden Inside Failure. Detailed explanation. This chapter explains that every failure contains more than one story. The first story is emotional and negative. I messed up. I wasn't ready. I should have done better. This story focuses only on mistakes and can lead to discouragement. The deeper story focuses on growth. I tried something challenging. I took a risk. I discovered a limit. Limits are not fixed barriers. They move as skills improve and experience grows. The chapter emphasizes that people who grow the most are not those who avoid failure, but those who listen carefully to what failure is teaching them. Chapter 7. Responsibility. Without self-blame. Detailed explanation. This chapter explains the important difference between responsibility and self-criticism. Taking responsibility means honestly acknowledging mistakes and choices. Self-blame means attacking your character or worth as a person. The chapter teaches that you can say, "This was my mistake," without saying, "I am a mistake." Healthy responsibility encourages learning, adjustment, and improvement. Self-blame creates fear, guilt, and avoidance, which block growth. The main lesson is that accountability should support change, not punish failure. Chapter 8. The Power of Reflection. Detailed explanation. This chapter explains that reflection is what transforms experience into wisdom. Loss alone does not automatically teach us anything. Learning happens when we slow down, calm our emotions, and think intentionally about what occurred. Reflection helps identify repeated patterns in behavior, fears that influence decisions, better choices for the future. The chapter also highlights an important truth. People are usually more understanding and wise when giving advice to others than when judging themselves. By treating yourself with the same fairness and compassion, you develop emotional intelligence and allow real growth to take place. Chapter 9. Resilience is built, not found. Detailed explanation. This chapter explains that resilience is not something people are born with. It is a skill that develops through experience. Each time someone recovers from disappointment, their mind learns. I can handle difficult situations. I can adapt when things change. I can try again after failure. These messages strengthen confidence and emotional stability. Resilience is described as quiet strength. It does not seek attention or praise. It simply shows up when challenges arise. Chapter 10. Loss as Redirection. Detailed explanation. This chapter encourages a new way of looking at loss. Instead of seeing loss as rejection or failure, it can be seen as redirection. Sometimes what we want is not what helps us grow or succeed long-term. Loss may close one path to push us toward another opportunity that better fits who we are becoming. Often, people only understand this years later, when they realize that a painful loss led them to something meaningful. The chapter encourages trust in change and acceptance of endings. Chapter 11. Turning lessons into action. Detailed explanation. This chapter explains that insight alone is not enough. Learning must be followed by action for growth to occur. That action may include adjusting daily habits, changing strategies, preparing differently for future challenges. Small improvements, when repeated consistently, create major long-term change. The chapter emphasizes that growth is not about avoiding failure completely, but about learning faster and adapting smarter. Failing better means improving with each attempt. Chapter 12. The courage to try again. Detailed explanation. This chapter focuses on the courage required after failure. Trying again is difficult because it involves risk and uncertainty. However, courage does not have to be dramatic or loud. It can be quiet persistence, simply showing up again. Each attempt after loss rebuilds self-trust and confidence. The chapter teaches that growth happens through consistency, not perfection. Chapter 13. Teaching others through your losses. Detailed explanation. This chapter highlights the value of sharing experiences. When people talk openly about their mistakes and failures, shame is reduced. Learning becomes normal. Others feel supported and less alone. Sharing loss transforms personal pain into collective understanding. Your experience may help someone else navigate their own challenges. Loss becomes meaningful when it creates connection and understanding. Chapter 14. Redefining success. Detailed explanation. This chapter redefines success in a healthier and more sustainable way. Success is not perfection or never failing. Success is progress. It includes learning more quickly from mistakes, recovering emotionally faster, developing deeper understanding. When loss no longer threatens a person's identity, growth becomes easier, more consistent, and more confident. Chapter 15. The Long View. Detailed explanation. This final chapter encourages looking at life from a wider perspective. With time, losses lose their emotional intensity and become lessons. Experiences that once caused pain often shape wisdom, resilience, and character. The chapter leaves us with an important question. Not whether we lost, but what we gained through learning. This long-term perspective turns setbacks into stepping stones. Loss is not the end of your story. It is a chapter. And like all chapters, it prepares you for what comes next. So the next time you lose, pause, breathe, listen. Because within that loss is knowledge. And within that knowledge is growth.